Again, just as Jeff and Andrew mentioned, thank you so much for being here today. This is a great kickoff to our season. We've been practicing here for a few weeks now, and now we're getting into that competition state and ready to kind of move on with our season. We're excited about this season and the potential this season could bring to our team. We are certainly aware that it's not where we start the season in these rankings and in these voting polls, but it's how we finish the season that counts the most. So we're working hard every day towards that. We're returning 83% of our scoring from last season's team, 88% of our rebounding from last season's team. We only lost one senior from that team, but we've replaced her with some really quality players. Our returning players have worked extremely hard in the offseason and the preseason, and they're excited to kind of see what's that next step for our program. We've kind of surpassed ourselves every year that I've been here, and I'm starting my fourth season. And so, and our players have always talked about, what kind of legacy are they going to leave our program once they graduate? And I think that's a huge part of, Jasmine sitting here. She's been here since my first year in her freshman year, and she's been through the ups and downs of our program. And she's seen us at our worst, and then she's seen us at what potentially has been our best. And she still is not satisfied with kind of where we're sitting today. And that's the kind of team that we have. We have potentially 9 players on our team that are competing for starting positions right now. 9. I've never had a team that's been this deep. I've never coached a team that's been this deep. Usually we've had 6 or 7 players on a rotation, and that's who we played, and we just kind of went through it with those players and hit and miss and rolled with the punches. But really, we've got 9 players that definitely could vie for playing time. We're in the middle right now this week of our second session of individual meetings with our players. We try to do them once every 6 weeks, and we have 4 players that we talk about contending for Conference Player of the Year. 4 players on our roster. And so to keep them motivated, keep them with that vision of what they can be as a team and what they can be as individuals, I think is huge for us this season. You guys mentioned it just a few minutes ago. You're going to see some changes in women's basketball this season, some huge changes in the games. If you're coming to our games, it's not going to be 2 20-minute halves. We're playing 4 10-minute quarters. And there's 1 media timeout per quarter. There's going to be less timeouts that coaches can call. There is no more 1-and-1 free throws in women's basketball. So when each team gets to 5 team fouls in the quarter, we'll be shooting 2 free throws every time, and then that repeats each quarter. It resets each quarter, and then plays obviously into overtime, any overtime periods. So we've got some good changes. From a coaching standpoint, you might see at the end of games where under that last minute mark, coaches will be able to call timeouts and advance the ball to half court versus having to inbound it on a full length, pass or go against a press late in the game. So you're going to see some different situational possessions at the end of games this year in women's basketball. I think it's going to make our game exciting. It's going to, of course, I think it's going to increase scoring with us making or being able to take 2 free throws with the clock stopped on foul possessions. So it's going to be interesting. So when you come to our games, especially when we play those double headers, you're going to come to our game see a very different game. It's the old kind of CBA rules in men's basketball, and then you're going to turn right back around and see a different game played when our men step on the floor. So as fans, it's going to be important that you know the rules. You're not yelling out different calls. And so just being educated about that when you come to the game, it's going to be a different game this year for women's basketball. As far as our player development and things that we've been doing, our players have had a great preseason. We've actually incorporated this preseason with every Friday we did a life skills session with our players. Everything from self-defense to academic needs and how to address professors, to social media do's and don'ts, and even to interviewing processes that go on with our media. So our players have not only been on the court and in the weight room and conditioning on the track, but they've also been taking a couple little small seminars just for their personal growth and their own success. And I think that's been a huge hit and been really fun for our players to kind of get to see them in that light and learning in a different way other than just in sports and in athletics. So I guess I'll open it up to some questions and then we'll kind of go from there.
Stephanie, how special will Sunday be? Getting to play Florida State when they're nationally ranked in the top 10. How did the game come about, and how special will this be for your program to play now?
We have had a tough time scheduling preseason competition this year. In past years, we've played people like Southern Miss and UAB and some of those mid-major schools, and we played them tough games. And so it was really hard this offseason to really find a team that would step up and play us. And of course, they don't understand. I control who wins and loses, right? Come on, coaches. But so when Florida State, we'd called a couple of big schools, just couldn't get it going. And I was actually recruiting in a hotel room, and Sue Simmerall gave me a call and said, "Hey, you guys still looking for a game?" And I said, "Of course we are." And Sue and I have been good friends for a long time. I played in the ACC, and Sue's been at Florida State forever. I coached in the ACC, and of course, in my first season here, when my husband passed away, Sue was one of the first coaches to call to say, whatever you need. If you need to hire a nanny, if you need to do something to help with your kids, you need to stay in this coaching profession. You call me, I'll find the help that you need financially. And so Sue has just been a great supporter of what we're doing here at West Florida. She's been a great supporter of me and my family. And so, certainly we were sitting in a hotel room and negotiated out. And I said, we would love to come over and play you guys. So this is really our first time playing a high caliber team that's nationally ranked and a Division I team like Florida State. It's going to be a great experience for our players. We're going over on Saturday, going over early, practicing at their facility Saturday night, and then stepping into the arena on Sunday. We are, for any fans that are coming, at 12:30 inside the arena. Tickets are free to come to the game, but we are going to have a little Argos rally inside the arena where there's food. You'll get to meet up with parents of our players and our boosters and those kind of things, and then come on down and watch the game. But it should be exciting. I think it's a great measuring stick for us. Whether we win or lose, that's void. It's an exhibition game. We want to put a good product on the court. We want to play our toughest. We want to be able to compete with that caliber of team, and then to get us ready for the following weekend when those games really count. And we step down and play Tampa and Rawlings, who are in the Sunshine Conference right now. Currently, Tampa's ranked number 20 in the country, and that's what we're gearing up for, is that next weekend. But we are certainly excited to make this trip to Tallahassee.
And for Toni and Jasmine, what will it be like playing top 10 D1 team?
I think this experience will be so exciting because, like you said, they're in the top 10, and like Coach is saying that we're trying to get better and we're trying to get ready for Rawlings and Tampa, who are in our region. So,
and I think it's going to be a great experience. Also, top caliber team, like you said. And it helps us to prepare for our teams in our conference. Teams in our conference are great teams, and it helps us prepare for those.
What do you learn in a game like this that you might not be able to learn stepping up a little bit in level of play, or just playing good competition at your level? What kinds of things can you learn here that you can't learn somewhere else in this kind of game?
I believe Florida State has a 6'5" player, and normally in our conference, that's not really the size of the most post players. So this will teach me, how to score on a bigger player. So.
I think it will teach us to be more versatile. Like Toni said, girls 6'5" on a wing spot. That's my position, and I'm only 5'9", so I have to figure out how to get around her and guard her. So it'll help us in our conference.
I think from a coaching standpoint, it helps us to see how our kids are going to step up to a challenge. Now they're facing someone that is, on a stat sheet a little bit better than them. And are they going to back away and allow that team to be better, or are we going to step in and really challenge that team and see what we have against them? So from a coaching standpoint, it's certainly a eye-opener for me, and I'll learn a lot about our players this Sunday when we play Florida State.
Stephanie, can you talk a little bit about the adjustments as a coach you have to make with the 4 10-minute quarter change? What's that going to mean as far as tactics and player rotation?
Oh, certainly. The 10-minute quarters, the biggest change with those 10-minute quarters is the first timeout a coach calls becomes the media timeout. And then there's not another timeout as far as media stance goes, unless a coach calls another timeout. Now, they've shortened our timeouts as coaches, so we have 1 full and 3 30s. Last year, we had 2 fulls and 4 30s, so they've lessened 2 of our timeouts. So if we wind up, for example, if we're at Florida State jumps up on us 8-0, and I call a quick timeout within the first 2 minutes of that quarter, we've got to play 8 more minutes, potentially without a timeout. So that means that either our players have to be in great condition to be able to stay out there and go full force 8 minutes, or we've got to start rotating our bodies in so that we can stay fresh for that 8-minute stretch. Normally, last year in our 20-minute halves, there was a media timeout every 4 minutes. So you could really push your players. Most players could go hard for 4 minutes and then take a minute and a half media break and then go right back in. So legitimately, players could play 40 minutes for you. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year, depending on how those timeouts fall and how early. I've heard one of the coaches at the Division I level at Louisville says, you know what, I'm tempted to call a timeout in the first minute and just see how much legs the other team has, because I know what my team has. And that might be a great philosophy to have. And certainly it might be a great one for me to adopt, looking at our roster and how many good players that we have on our roster this year. Let's see how deep the other team is and see how long they can last.
Stephanie, from last year in the tournament, getting a chance to go there, it sounds like you got a deep roster this year, 4 players up for the Gulf South Conference Player of the Year award for the preseason. When you look at what you learned from that experience, because obviously this year you want to take that to the next level, hopefully getting there this year and expecting to get there, what did you learn from last year with your returning players around you?
This returning group, they're hungry. They're not satisfied. And they could easily be, knowing the growth that we've made in our program. We won a conference championship 2 years ago. We surpassed our win totals last year, made it to the second round of the regional last year. And when our players walk away, they're not satisfied. They want more. They want that next experience. And that's come from their mouths. And I think it sums it up. Last year, we're on the bus. And our players are getting on the bus. And I'm just kind of sitting in the front. We're loading. And I overhear the players talking about our upcoming game. And this just happened to be, 5 or 10 games into the season. And they start talking about winning a national championship on their own. This is an ideal that they've come up with, that this is our goal, that they want to compete for a national championship. So when you have players on your roster who think about that big picture and they visualize that dream themselves and they've been thinking about it all by themselves, some really special things can happen, especially when that talent meets up with that dream. And I think we're in that situation now. Now, again, there's a lot of things that can happen between today and the end of March. I mean, we've got 5 long months of basketball season. We've got to stay healthy. We've got to make sacrifices. The players have to continue to make sacrifices and keep the team goals and what they want to accomplish in the forefront for them. Team chemistry is a huge thing that we have to make sure that we're getting along and going along and moving in the right direction. So any of one of those 3 things could fall apart on you in a second, and so our jobs as coaches try to keep that team together and keep them focused on what they visualize themselves as doing, because when they're in the middle of the grind, sometimes it's hard for them to see and still potentially see where they could go, because it's tough. I've always told our players the month of February, man, in basketball is outrageous. It is a total grind, minute by minute. And if you can survive the month of February with a great win-loss record, you can play deep in postseason play, because it is tough. And I think that's just kind of where we are as a team, and where our vision is as a team is that we're going to grind through it. We know it's going to be a long season. We've got to have a lot of things fall into place, but we're going to work really hard to make sure that they do.
Jazz, your sophomore year, you had Tessa Holt, the senior guard last year for Williams, 2 great players to look up to. Can you talk about how you're going into this role in your senior year, what you learned from them, and kind of your expectations for yourself this season?
The one thing I learned from them is leadership, and that's what I'm trying to give to my teammates this year. And I'm just trying to be the best Jasmine Wigfall for myself, not only for myself, but for my teammates.